So 1 Kings chapter 21. It's all about Naboth is murdered for his vineyard. King Ahab wants his vineyard. And then we see the Lord condemns Ahab and his wife, Queen Jezebel. And it said, and it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard, which was in Jezreel, next to the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. So Ahab spoke to Naboth, saying, give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is next to my house, and for it I will give you a vineyard better than it. Or if it seems good to you, I will give you its worth in money. But Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord forbid that I should give the inheritance of my fathers to you. So we see this man is talking about the Lord. Remember, after the prophets, there's still, after that war with the prophets, and the people's hearts are turned back to God. Remember, they're serving Baal and Asherah and different people. But we see there's still people, and before it tells us, there's still people that has not bowed down to Baal. There's people worshiping God. That you need to see. Your words will show who you are. Your words are important. We're going to see later that is it because he's listening to the Lord's words on what not to sell his inheritance to people, or not to give up his land to people, is this why the Lord will get vengeance for what's going to happen to him. Because we see here, he's saying, the Lord forbid that I should give the inheritance of my fathers to you, or his ancestors. Because remember, back in Leviticus days and stuff, they were instructed not to give their possessions to people. That the Lord separated land for them. The Lord had a provision. He gave them resources, and that was theirs. Different tribes were given different things, and they were not meant to sell it on. And even if they said no, they meant to give it on. And if they sold it, they were meant to get back in Jubilee. Like, let's see. We know Naboth is out, and we can tell you're righteous from the words you say. We know he's righteous because he's following the Lord. He's got here, inheritance was the gift of honor and support given by a patriarch to his sons, and sometimes daughters. It was meant for provision and status of the family. The first half of the Old Testament refers to God bestowing the promised land on the Israelites. The Heavenly Father providing for his sons and daughters. God has provided for you. What is yours, and no one should be able to keep it for too long. Yep, the Heavenly Father provides the sons and daughters because the land was given by God to the individual families, the land permanently. So we know what is seen here. The land was about status and provision for the family. So we see King Ahab. He doesn't care about what the Lord's provided for people. He wants what is his. He wants things just because it's near his. He's interested in creating his own provision, increasing his own territory. He doesn't care about what the Lord has provided for others. Be careful of these leaders that don't care about providing for you. They care about providing for themselves. And later on, we're going to see more about Queen Jezebel and how she is and how she kills people for what her husband. So we see because Naboth says no, he's not going to give him the land. Then he goes away. King Ahab goes away. It says displeased. So Ahab went into his house, soul and displeased, because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he said, I will not give you. And later on, before there's a Jezebel's wife came to him and said to him, why is your spirit so sullen that you eat no food? He said to her, because the man won't give him the thing, basically. And then she's like, who is king? And then she's going to devise a plan. She says, so she wrote letters saying, proclaim a fast and seek Naboth with high honor among the people, and seek 2 men, scoundrels, liars before him, to bear witness against him, saying, you have blasphemed against God. So they're making a fast. They're going to say, oh, he didn't fast, and they're going to tell him lies so that he can be killed. And then they do this, and he's killed. And they proclaim the fast, and seek Naboth with high honor among the people. And the 2 men scoundrels came and sat before him, and the scoundrels witnessed against him, against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth has blasphemed God. Then they took him outside the city and stoned him. So Queen Jezebel, who see, and it says, and she wrote letters in Ahab's name. Like, this woman has got power. This queen, in these times, women probably would have been, wives would just been more looking after the household and making children. Like, somehow, even before, when he had all the war with the prophets, King Ahab, he went straight and told Queen Jezebel what's happened. Like, she has power. She's all there in the military. She's even before, she was the one that sent messengers to Elijah saying he's going to be killed. She's sending people now. We see she's signing things in his name. It's probably not even the first time. Like, and remember, before, he's the one that made a house for her God and all these stuff. And King Ahab doesn't know about her religion. It's her that brought this religion to him. So when you control religion of people, you control power, because She will be his teacher. She'll be telling him how to sacrifice. She will be telling him how to serve this God and what to do. She is running things. And we see here she siphons his name, she's making schemes and killing people. She has power. This woman has power. When she wants something, see how what is behind. And if we see her father, actually, her father was a high priest before I think he killed his brother to become king, and he was a high priest of Baal. So think about now with 6 Masons and Freemasons and all these things, and being a medium for Illuminati and different devils and different gods, and being that medium, that high priest, that the person that was talking to the enemy, that her father was this person. So she grew up with people being mediums and high priests for these false gods, and probably being filled with power from these people and doing all sort of wickedness. And now we see her, and the spirit behind her is Bel and these evil gods, and we see the power that she has. She's killing people just to get what they want. She does not care. And later on, we're going to see what is going to happen because of how she acts and because of how her husband acts. We have to be careful who is running up. So who is actually running the country? Because we see, like, remember, high priest, they would have been included the finances, charged with temple, administration, early period and second temple, collecting taxes and maintain order. So her father, imagine being a high priest on the other side, he would have been very political, and that's why he was able to become king and probably killing people and doing what he done. And she grew up like this woman knows what she is doing. So sometimes when we feel the government's after us, this person don't like us, like Naboth could have felt, oh my gosh, this person wants my land, now I'm being persecuted, people are lying against me because of the government. But really, it wasn't even King Ahab, it was people behind him, behind the government, behind the politics, people really in charge, the spirits in charge. Remember, it says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and there's people in high places trying to do things, but luckily God has got our back. But it's very dangerous. We see that these people, don't forget, like, they used to sleep with, they were trying to sleep with all sorts of people. These are from Canaanite religions. We got King Ty, and he's called King Zidion. And from these, brought back the name, because Zidion was before Ty, and showing you that the way he was living, or the way they were thinking about the Canaanites there, when they were doing all kinds of things to their gods of fertility and all these kind of stuff, all types of sex they're trying to have. And this is why Leviticus says what it says about man should sleep with woman and woman should sleep with man, and all of that, because of the things they were doing for their gods, for these Baal gods, and things they were doing in the temple, and trying to bring down fertility and sleep with all sorts of things. So imagine this is who's in charge of the country. These are the things they believe in. These are the things they're doing. Even like now, we see different laws come into play, different things are there. Who is the spirit behind all these profanities that are unbiblical that is going on? So we see there is judgment for King Ahab for his part. And we see the same thing for Jezebel. And he says, I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha. All of them before, his grandfathers and his fathers were wiped out because of the idolatry, and no, because of the serving other gods. So Ahijah, because of the provocation which you have provoked me to anger, and made Israel sin. And concerning Jezebel, the Lord also spoke, saying, the dog shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. The dog shall eat whoever belongs to Ahab and dies in the city. And we see, because King Ahab is humble, it says, so it was when Ahab heard these words that he tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his body and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went after morning. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah to Israel, saying, see how Ahab humbled himself before me. Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the calamity in his days. We have to honor in the Lord, that humbleness, like, it can save your life. Humble yourself before the Lord. Understand the errors of your ways. Turn from your ways, high or small, and serve the Lord. And we see, be careful of what you're trying to take. Because we see, as Ahab got up and went down to take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreel, this is where Elijah comes to meet him. And arise, go down and meet Ahab, king of Israel. And we see, you shall speak to him, saying, have you murdered? Thus says the Lord, have you murdered and also taken possession? And you shall speak to him, saying, thus says the Lord, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth. Like we said, Naboth was a righteous man. You're still following the ways of the Lord. Be careful what you do to the righteous people. Like, judgment will come on you. Be careful what you do with the righteous people. And then we see later on, there is favor, even when you're out of favor. Imagine being out of favor of the Lord, but still finding favor. Because he humbled himself. it says, I will not bring the calamity in his days. In the days of his son, I will bring the calamity on his house. So remember, all his bloodline was going to be wiped out anyway. So he's just lucky to find a bit of favor that he's not going to see this. He's going to be able to live a bit of peace or a bit longer. His line's still going to be wiped out, but he's not going to see and go through that trauma of seeing his whole legacy, his whole bloodline being wiped out because he humbled himself. Humbling, it says, it reminds me of honor your parents so your days will be longer. Like honoring God, honoring your parents, your days will be longer. He could have ended, his time could have ended shorter. But because he humbled himself in the Lord, he understood like where he is going wrong, the errors of his ways. We need to humble ourselves. There's a lot going on here. And we see, and he behaved very abominably in following idols, according to all that Amorites had done. We need to put down these idols that we are following and putting above God. And this is the cycle of these kings that we see in Israel going idol after idol, idolatry after idolatry. But the Lord is not impressed. He will tear down your legacy. And we see the ego of people like they want to be building, like we see King Ahab trying to get a bigger garden. He is more interested in having a vineyard, a bigger part of his palace, building his earthly possessions than building the people of God, be building his people in God, building himself even in God. Are we more consumed with buying things and enlarging our gardens and our cars than actually knowing the word? Don't forget, this man has just seen the power of God with the prophets, and his prophets dying, and they couldn't get their sacrifice answered by God. He just seen the power, but still he's more interested in growing his garden. And then you see how he's a sulky child when he literally doesn't want to eat no food. Like, we need to mature in the Lord.